Hey everyone, this is Dr. Jennifer Harris, and here we are at the final segment of our series on finding freedom from self-gaslighting. As we come to the end, the most common question after taking a look at the problem is, okay, so what do we do about it? How do we fix it? How do we change this? How do we engage with this reality? So I'm here in our final segment to offer a three-step intervention plan. And within that plan, there is the invitation and likelihood that it will look a little bit different for each person on how each of these steps would be integrated into your life. And I will share a little bit about how I have myself integrated these steps into mine. So, after looking at this problem from several vantage points, all of it coming down to a simple yet not easy reason that we have been taught stories, these often unspoken but deeply encoded rules and regulations that we are taught, we inherit, we observe, we see in action, we absorb them into ourself. We absorb these stories as the standard operating procedure within us. And those stories are all in a similar vein of be somebody that I am not. Be different than I am in order to be safe, in order to be included, in order to receive love, in order to be taken care of, and fill in the blank, in order to survive. We believe the stories that were sold. We buy the stories that were sold and internalize them so deeply that we then turn them on ourselves as weapons in so many ways. So as you have been maybe listening to some of the other videos and thought to yourself, yeah, I can see myself there. I can see myself there. The question is, so what do we do about it? The first step, which hopefully you've already taken just through the process of listening and maybe asking a few questions, is to be aware that there is a potential problem here, to be aware of when these unspoken rules and regulations of our standard operating procedures start speaking. And one of the main ways that we can become aware is by learning to feel what it feels like in our bodies when those stories are speaking. What do I mean by that? Well, whenever we are reacting to a situation out of not who we really are, there will always be physical and emotional symptoms of that problem that present themselves. The question is, how good are we at noticing them when they start, and how loud do they have to get before we start paying attention? So, for example, there are certain patterns of relationships based on my own past experience that when I interact with somebody who is similar to those patterns, be it the way they communicate, be it the way that they gaslight me, the way that they show up with perhaps symptoms of, say, narcissism, or the inability to take responsibility for themselves, the or unwillingness, always that question, can't, won't, um, the way that they might be putting their emotional responsibility on my shoulders to carry. Different things like that will activate this trained reaction to go along, to diminish my selfhood and to enter into this sort of alternate view of reality and participate in those expectations. Even though that might still be my training in some respects, I don't have to stay there. I can be aware of what is happening inside of me and notice it happening. For example, am I starting to stumble over my words? Am I starting to become very foggy in my brain? Am I starting to breathe harder, or is my heart rate elevated? Does my face flush really red? Do I start to have a growing sense of unease and at the same time impatience or um, irritation, crankiness? Those are just some options. Other options include um, a feeling of heaviness in your chest, a clench in your stomach. Some people start to clench other areas, their hands, their toes, their legs, especially your rear end cheeks can sometimes clench. You can start to feel some tension in your spine, or you can start to suddenly have a headache. There are ways that we start to shift in our emotional makeup as well in response to what we might not recognize in the moment, but our body remembers, oh, I've been here before. This does not end well for me. So it starts sending signals to us that we are getting into a situation where it's likely we will not end up safe. We will not end up well here. And so some of those symptoms, some of those signals look a lot like fight or flight response, because in fact, that's what it is, because your body is gearing you up to protect yourself. Whatever that looks like for you, there's also emotional information that comes along with it. If you start to sense a change in your kind of normal way of being emotionally, maybe you tend to be more soft-spoken and suddenly your words are coming louder and faster, or you tend to be very verbal and your words suddenly can't come at all. You might find yourself, again, irritable, cranky, touchy. What's the word that's sensitive? You're too sensitive. That's a frequent one for me. You might also find yourself the other way, shutting down, dissociating, like you are here, but you're not here. You might start numbing out. You might start separating yourself, even if your body is still present, your mind and your spirit, you're not there anymore. So learning your own body's way of telling you something's not right is the first step, this awareness step towards healing and intervention in these patterns of self-gaslighting. First of all, we notice. And if we can start to let ourselves off the hook a little bit about how long it might take us to notice, if we can let ourselves off the hook a little bit about the fact that it's happening at all, and look at the information as simply that, information. No need for extra shame or judgment or condemnation on top of what's already happening, because A, it will not allow us to move to the second step, which we must in order to, if we want to heal. But more importantly, we're just joining the system with more gaslighting, more self-gaslighting, more shaming, and all of that makes our fight or flight response double down to the point where finally we just shut off altogether. Even if we come out swinging, even if our initial fight or flight response is fight, eventually we will just shut down. What we want to do is notice, hopefully, before we shut down, and then even if we are shut down, to this is what's happening. And then invite ourselves to just say, this is what's happening. The ability to be self-aware means the ability to name what is happening for me. And over the years, this is something that I can celebrate in myself, not that the pattern doesn't happen, but that over the years I have learned, in very much so, not perfectly, not all the time, but a lot of the time, to not be afraid or angry or ashamed of myself because I notice this is where I am. That for me is a huge victory because that's sort of like, here is the problem I'm reacting to. I'm going into fight or flight mode, and then I'm going to just put more problem on top of problem. Um, One of the authors that I love, Hillary McBride, wrote a book called The Wisdom of Your Body, which is amazing. And she's talks about how that is the second arrow. The event shoots an arrow into us, it hurts us, and then we shoot another one because of how we respond to our response. We're really cute that way. So the more that we can notice what's happening to us just as information, don't draw conclusions, don't make assumptions, don't allow your brain to tell you this is what it means. Just going to let it be itself. So if you are in a situation and you are noticing that my voice is getting louder, I'm talking faster, my heart rate is up, my breathing's coming faster, or suddenly I'm in a brain fog and I'm super confused and I just want to run, or I can't find my words and I just am frozen in this chair. I want to leave, I can't. I want to come out swinging, I can't. I'm stuck. Whatever that looks like for you, and just say, "Hi, I see you. I see this happening in you. I see this is happening. What is going on? What am I responding to? What's happening for me?" So awareness then, once we can name what is happening, and as we start to practice this, we start learning the language, the signals, the common ways our body communicates to us, danger, danger, danger. The more that we practice, the more that we engage, the more that we name, we start to see that there's patterns, which means that over time, we start to be able to name this much, much sooner so that the naming happens much closer to the reaction, so that even if the reaction happens, we can shift it really, really quickly. Sometimes it takes us a couple of days. Sometimes it might take us a couple of minutes. And sometimes with grace and courage, we find it in a couple of seconds, the ability to shift that programming and step out of it into something new. So we're aware, we're noticing, we're naming, this is what's going on. Now that we've done that, we can get to step 2. We can attune to it. We can allow it to be in a way that we make space for it. And we also bring ourselves to kindness about it. Hi. Wow. Yeah, that person really, they reminded me of so and so. Or this event just really, really triggered this memory for me. And wow, that took me there fast. And okay, so, okay, I see it. I'm safe. I'm okay. Even if we need to leave the room to do that, even if we're still stuck in the chair, we can start to attune into our body's information and let our body know that we are receiving the message. So awareness that the message is coming, and then the acknowledgement, the allowance, the attunement that message is received. I hear you. Once we're able to tune into that message's frequency, then it can ease down a little bit because it's been heard. I don't know if you've ever been around a little kid who's trying to get your attention, but the more you ignore, the louder they get. Same as with our body. So if we can attune in, I received your message. Thank you. Yes, we are going to do something about that. We are going to engage that right now. I'm reading you loud and clear. Then we can move to the third step, which is action, which is do something about it. The challenge is we try to skip over this attunement part, the acknowledgement of I've received this message part, and go right to action. When we feel the feels, when we feel the upheaval, even knowing that that's what's happening, we skip this being with it, being present to it. I've mentioned before that I like to watch a lot of movies that are metaphorical. So Star Trek, Star Wars, Chronicles of Narnia, those kinds of storytelling that put metaphor to things. There's a scene from one of the newer Star Trek, Star Wars movies where Rey, who is the new awakened, um, they think Jedi, surprise, um, she's sitting in the forest in her training and she's kind of, flying, kind of meditating, but sitting in the air. And things are floating around her and she's speaking the words, be with me, be with me, be with me. In the Psalms, it talks about be still and know, be still and know. This connection to not only the truth that's being told from within you, but connecting to the spirit, the presence, the energy, the other reality all around us within that moment as well. You are not alone. When you tune into yourself, you tap into the reality that you are not alone. Because all around the world at this moment, there are people also tuning in, and you have your ancestors behind you that are with you, and the people that of faith that are with us. All of that brings into this moment, I am here. I am with you, which is technically I am with me, because that message that's being sent is coming from me to me. So we still need to learn how to hear our own voice, not the gaslighting voice, but the voice of something's wrong. And then we say, okay, we know, we've got it. Message received. Don't skip the attunement piece, because then your action will likely communicate a message of shaming or minimization or belittling or just shut up to those messages. And we need those signals. We need them. They tell us what it is that brings us joy along with pain, and what fills our heart with purpose along with disappointment, which helps us know where it is that we are meant to be and where we're not. So don't skip the second step. Tune in, receive the message, and honor it for being spoken. Then we can move to 3, action. Because we've taken these steps, then the action will come from a place where we are likely a little more calm, a little more regulated, a little bit more in wholeness of self. We're not fragmented into pieces. We might not be as strongly operating out of these old false gaslighting stories because we have taken the time to receive the message. Yeah, I see it. Okay. When we let that settle and regulate, then we can switch back into a non-limbic activated personhood, so that our nervous system now is regulating through our whole body, connecting all the way down and up, which communicates that we're safe, which reactivates the higher functioning of our brain, which turns off all the messages of fight or flight or freeze, so that we can make a choice from a place of kindness, from a place of self-compassion, which is truth and love, and from a place of trusting our own inner voice, so that what we choose is good for us. And when that happens, it's also good for everyone around us, because that choice will be hopefully more in line with the nurturing that we need at the moment. When we attune, we can act then from kindness. So, what do actions look like? First of all, as I said, they are regulating, meaning they are tools that we have learned and are learning in our toolbox that help bring us to balanced and calm. If you're shut down, they help turn us back on, bring some energy to the situation so that we can act. If we're really high, then it calms us down so that we can calmly approach what's next, brings us into balance. So the word regulating, meaning that the parts of me are working together more efficiently. And yes, that includes my brain and my body and my emotions. Second of all, it is kind. I love Kristen Neff's research on what it is to offer yourself compassion, another way of saying kindness, co-passion, which means to bring your emotional energies to yourself along with others. And she has this really lovely way of talking about how that has two pieces. It has the nurture, like a mama, like a mothering, but it also has truth, like mama bear, so that it's not just all about lovey-covey, lovey-dovey cuddle, let's have some, I can't even speak. Let's have a bath. It's not about that. It's about the ability to be kind and to take responsibility for myself. What do I need in this moment to show up to whatever this event is, this conflict, this conversation, this memory, whatever it is, well? The challenge is that we tend to want these actions to be very huge and dramatic. We want to be able to do a big thing that matches how big our emotions felt just a minute ago. We want it to be really big and just do it once, maybe twice. Unfortunately, that's just not how it works because it took us a long time to get here. This pattern has repeated itself many, 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 many times over a long period of time. So there's not going to be one big enough action in order to upheaval that enough. And two, even if it could, which it can't, but even if it could, it won't stick. What do I mean by that? I have been on the receiving end of a few miraculous moments in my life. From a miraculous healing of my back to a miraculous interaction with God, where I heard the voice speak. Another event that would have caused great pain, and it felt like I was just wrapped in bubble wrap and protected from experiencing that. All of those were miraculous. And yet, it was the pain that I went through step by step by step by step that changed me. Don't get me wrong, the miracle is nice. The miracle is nice, but in many ways, we don't remember the miracle. We don't remember the lesson from the miracle because it was a one big thing and done. We do, however, remember the lesson learned over and over, chosen day by day by day by day until we get through the mountain. So when it comes to the actions that we choose in order to start speaking to ourselves with truth and love, with kindness from within our heart toward our true self, and giving space to let those stories that we are not allowed to, we can't because all those things, I'm too much, I'm not enough, not good enough, I'm all these things. The actions need to engage the stories the way that they were taught, drip by drip by drip by drip. So, actions. Do not underestimate the power of good, deep, slow breaths. You're like, I'm just going to breathe. Yeah, you are going to breathe, but you're going to breathe in a very mindful, aware kind of way where you breathe in through the nose and you hold and release out through the mouth with some velocity behind it in a way that your exhale is longer than your inhale. That is a way of communicating to your body that you are safe, to activate your parasympathetic nervous system to shut down the fight or flight response. 3 deep breaths, 10 seconds, resets back into regulated self. Other processes of grounding that keep you remembered that you are in a body. Outside, nature, big time. Remembering that you are part of a bigger world around you, feeling your feet on the grass, feeling your fingers in dirt, feeling the wind on your face, or connecting to the moon in the sky at night. Practices of sitting in a chair and breathing and letting your mind stay with you, not running out ahead to worry, not running to the past to regret, right here. Essential oils are a major piece of my own grounding and my own practice of regulation because they travel through the olfactory process, your nose, on the way through the limbic center where your memory and emotion is processed, on the way to the prefrontal cortex where they are accessed into the brain's main computer. They're the only sense that does that, which means smell has the power to shift our emotional state, to bring us back into wholeness of and right-mindedness of thinking. Activities like prayer and meditation on scripture are also grounding when they are not used as a mental exercise. The challenge with so many actions of faith is that we have been trained in Western culture that faith is largely an intellectual, brain forward exercise where we kind of go through the rote motions and we forget that we're in a body doing these things. So I'm not talking about this as the time that you sit and go through your prayer list. That's a different thing. But to sit and to tune in to the reality of the spirit around you with the only request being, be with me. Be with me now. Remind me that I'm in a body. Bring my body to this moment. So much of our out of regulationness, our dysregulation, is because we are not in our body most given moments. Because if we are out in the future worrying there, our body's not there because our body's right here, not in the future. And if we're in the past worrying about what we could have, should have done, our body's not there because our body's right here. So our brain is not where our body is, which means we have no memory of this moment. Our body's present connectedness to the experience has to be together in order for us to remember this moment. That's why, like, it's so confusing to me why people are on vacation and they have their phone in hand taking pictures. So their camera gets to experience the moment, but they are not. You don't need pictures of everything. In many ways, it would be a far greater gift for your body to be there with you. That I am here in this moment. My mind is here. I can feel the floor under my feet. I can feel the desk under my hands. I feel the air as I breathe it in. I smell whatever is in the air. I feel the wind of the fan over here on my face. That is presence. That is grounded. That is regulating. So find what works for you. And it might be a little bit of experimentation. It might be a little bit of finding what reads as regulating action to you. Yes, getting a manicure is great. Yes, having a good meal, great. Yes, having time with friends, great. All of those things, whatever it is that reads back to you, I am regulated. I am able to be calm, even if people around me might not be. I am able to be, what's the word I'm looking for? I have clarity of thought and presence. I don't have brain fog, curiosity. If we are in a place where we can be curious about what's going on around us, not threatened, where we can be calm, even if we're excited, our body is calm, meaning our heart rate's not elevated, etc. And also that clarity of perception of what's going on and our ability to respond to it. All of those are markers that we are in regulation. Even if a little anxiety is present, we can handle it because overall we are safe enough. We are in company that is safe enough, that I feel loved enough. I feel connected enough to be regulated. Whatever that looks like for you might be a little bit of investigation. And who doesn't like a little bit of scavenger hunt to find out the things that feel good to me? Here's the main thing. Yes, we want to take those actions when we find ourselves activated, to be aware, to attune, and then to take action to regulate ourselves. And if we want to be able to respond better when we are activated, aka triggered, we need to practice these steps when we're not. Just like any other thing that we want to improve at, we practice even when we get really good at it, even in the off season, even when things are going really well, we are still practicing our steps because that guarantees a muscle memory that when we get activated, even out of nowhere, even if we're taking all the steps to try to keep that from happening, we're able to find that place a little easier because we remember it, because we've practiced it so many times that sometimes our muscles could reach for it even when our brain is still caught in the activation and the twirl. Wouldn't that be amazing? If we wait until we are triggered up to try to do this process, great, better than never. And it will be so much easier to find it again if we're practicing it all the time. And I'm not talking about 3 hours a day. I'm telling you that this kind of self-awareness, attunement, and action can be implemented in your life with 3 to 5 minutes a day. 3 to 5 minutes of a daily breathing exercise, of taking, for example, in your chair with your coffee and breathing with a lovely aroma that helps our emotions remember that those old patterns of fight or flight are not the only emotions or patterns we remember. There are other ones buried underneath. Let's set them free. As you bring yourself to yourself and start to release yourself from those self-gaslighting patterns, you will start to uncover your voice, your courage, your calling and purpose, personality traits that may have been buried for years. Suddenly you might remember you have a sense of humor. You might remember that you like public speaking. I don't know. Just cool things can happen when we start to disrupt what we've always done. Yes, it's scary. Yes, it's hard. So is the other way. This is new, not bad. So it's going to take us a minute to get used to it. That's why practice is so important. And if you need some help figuring out what do I look like when I'm activated? What stories kick on for me? What are those stories covering up? Then stay tuned for a special announcement in the next couple of weeks coming up for some opportunities over the summer to engage just that. Who am I? And how do I know which version of me is showing up? And then how to engage it. I hope that you will take the time to do some investigating to find what it is that supports your regulation state, that you will learn the tools for being able to facilitate that process easier over time, that you will be able to learn to operate within your nervous system in a way that builds capacity to not get stuck in the yucky place. We can learn how to do this. And if you need some help one-on-one, please reach out. I'm here. So as we hopefully start to find freedom from these patterns of self-gaslighting and the ways that we keep ourselves small and diminished, that you will start to stand tall, finding your voice, finding your courage, releasing your curiosity with kindness, and that through this practice, you will remember again that you are good and that you were built for connection with yourself, with God, and with other people in the world around us. So I'll see you soon.